Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
I'm Dan MacLennan.
And I'm Mike Booth.
The Blues are well beaten by Bolton and Moxon and Garner depart as the squad rebuild continues. Can United turn things around and avoid the drop? We look back on the loss to the Trotters before previewing this weekend's trip to the capital to face Leyton Orient.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run. The old 1-2.
Yes, it's the worst kept secret in Cumbria, I think it's fair to say, has finally been confirmed, hasn't it, Dan? Owen Moxon has left the club to go to Portsmouth. We'll be talking about that shortly, the news section. But initial reaction just kind of feels like the right move, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. And for those who also listen to the BBC social, we had a little discussion on this the other day, and nobody has really done wrong from their own point of view on this, because Owen Moxon's done nothing wrong.
No.
Paul Simpson's done nothing wrong. Carlisle United have done nothing wrong. And even though a lot of people won't like this, Graham Cavanagh's done nothing wrong as an agent.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk a bit more in depth about that in a sec. And Mike as well, obviously, with a little bit of news that sort of was rumoured for a week or two as well. Joe Garner's left to go to Oldham.
Yeah, I think it's, with Armstrong in now, I think Joe's going to struggle. I think his legs were struggling with the amount of football he's having to play. But I'd imagine that he's on a semi-decent wage, and it might free up some money for us to bring in someone who's a little bit better suited to playing alongside Armstrong.
Yep, that's the hope, isn't it, I guess, on that one, but there you go. Right, before we get going, obviously we'll be talking about those bits of the news section. We're recording this on Thursday lunchtime, so at the moment, no new signings have come in on deadline day.
What's lunchtime, please?
Oh, for God's sake. He does this every time, Dan. Every time I message him and say lunchtime, he has a little dig at me and says, dinner time, that's what you should be saying. So there you go, dinner and tea.
If you're from Carlisle, it's breakfast, dinner and tea. You can have a packed lunch for your dinner, though, just to mix it up.
Yes, I know, just ridiculous, but there you go. But yeah, so we're recording this on Thursday, dinner time, and as of now, we haven't signed anyone yet, which, looking at the time, it could well be something maybe they announce in the next 20 minutes or so, which will hopefully slip it in. But if not, it'll be announced just after we record as the usual deal, isn't it, there? But there's a lot of talk that a striker's been lined up. We don't know yet whether there's anything truth in that. But yeah, we'll be talking about that. We'll be looking back on the Bolton game, unfortunately, and then looking ahead to the trip to Leyton Orient this weekend, including a chat with an opposition pod. Before we get into that, just a reminder, our sponsor this season is the Carlisle United Sports Club London Branch. London Branch do a lot of fantastic stuff for the club in terms of fundraising, and also for XLs in terms of travel for away games and tickets for games and stuff like that. And they, you don't have to come from London or the South East to join up. You can live anywhere in the world. Come on, Dan, give us some places. You've been very AFCON mode recently, haven't you? So list some places where you could be.
Well, because you've just slandered the Asian Cup, I'm going to say Tajikistan.
Well, you know what? As I started talking that, I was thinking to myself, I should mention the Asia Cup actually as well, because there is a connection there with Carlisle, isn't there? Obviously with Geffen Jones playing for Australia, as we'll talk about shortly.
Mini rant here, but it's quite disappointing. I mean, don't get us wrong, I've always loved AFCON. Anyone who listens who's always read When Saturday Comes, they've always give quite good coverage to AFCON. The Asian Cup just seems to be a poor relative, and it's equally as big and good a competition. There's a cracking game, South Korea and Australia in the quarterfinals this week.
Tomorrow,
that's a brilliant game. Yeah.
That should be a really good one there. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, if you want to find out more about the London Branch, go to the website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right,
do you know what the capital of Tajikistan is?
Oh, this is going to annoy me now, because it's one of these sort of pointless questions, isn't it? I used to know this. No, I can't remember.
Do you not?
No, I don't. Go on. Do you not know?
Dushanbe. I had to remember that. I was mixing my stands up. Dushanbe.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I know
useful
somebody's
to
been to
know.
Tajikistan, that's why.
Oh, well, there you go.
When England played in Kazakhstan, a lad I know took 2 weeks off work and did all the stands.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you? You might as well while you're out there,
Yeah.
tick a few off, but there you go. Maybe not Afghanistan, but slightly more dangerous, I think. Than
He was on
but
the
there you go.
border. He was
Was
on
it? Oh,
the
yeah, he
border of
was.
Afghanistan.
Blimey. Right, well, let's get straight into the news section, and it's the obvious thing to talk about, isn't it? Owen Moxon, after the days of speculation and rumour, it's been finally confirmed today that he has signed for Portsmouth on a 3.5-year deal for an undisclosed fee. All kinds of rumours about that fee. We don't know exactly, but it sounds like at the very least it's 6 figures. And for a player who's got 6 months left on his deal, Dan, you can't really argue that, can you? At the end of the day, he said he wanted to leave. Well, he didn't say he wanted to leave. He said he wasn't going to sign a new deal in the summer. Realistically, there's a chance we will go down this summer. We hope we don't. We really hope we stay up, but there's a chance we might. Portsmouth are pushing for a place in the Championship. It's kind of a move that just makes sense for all around for everyone, doesn't it? Really, in the end.
Yeah. Look, Owen Moxon is always going to be remembered for last season. Wembley, brilliant season.
Yeah.
He hasn't hit those heights this season, but when you look at the rating sites, he's actually still our top player this season.
Yeah.
Which doesn't speak volumes of the others because we've been poor at times. But, ever since the whisper of Blackpool at the end of the last window came, it's been a bit of a fractious relationship between all.
Yeah.
Because at that time, Blackpool were never going to offer the sort of money we could have commanded at that point.
Yeah.
And, we don't know what talks have went on between club, player, agents. But I think it's fairly clear, reading between the lines from comments, that not everyone's been on the same page for a long time.
No.
He's going to a club that are more than likely going to be in the Championship next season, which is a great move for him. He'll easily have got a better wage than we offered him on his new deal.
Yeah.
Probably a signing on fee, a promotion bonus, etc. So that's what I'm on about. Like, that's Graham Cavanagh's job as his agent to do.
Yeah.
And I'm quite glad it's a team so far away, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think it makes it a bit easier for some fans to say, well, fair enough. Portsmouth are a big club, make no mistake about it.
They won the FA Cup in the last 20 years.
Yeah. Portsmouth, for me, are one of them teams who would be top half Championship and maybe try and get Premier League every so often.
Yeah. Like a Norwich floating between the two, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's. I saw yesterday people were saying 300,000. First of all, I've genuinely no idea what the fee is. I would be very surprised if we got 300,000.
Up front, definitely not. I can't see
Up front, definitely not. I would have expected closer to 100 and maybe a small add-on. Maybe they've got another midfielder injured midweek, didn't they? So I think the 2 midfielders down now. So you could probably eke another 50 grand out of them for that because they need a midfielder. Yeah. And you maybe get a payment if and when they get promoted, So you may be looking at 200,000. And like we say, we can all argue to the cows come home. The only people who know are Portsmouth, Carlisle, and Owen Moxon and his agent. So
yeah. And the thing you say about his agent, you're absolutely right. I've seen a few things this week saying, should bin off his agent, bin off Cavs. Like, his agent's done his job. His agent's done a perfect job for him. He's got him a big move and an increase in wage and a good chance of playing in the Championship next season. And
3.5-year deal as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's done his job at the end of the day. That's what he's there to do. His best interests are not Carl United. His best interests are Owen Moxon at the end of the day. That's what he's looking at, Cav. So, fair play. But it's annoying, but that's just the reality of it. Mike, in terms of this, it does make sense, though, to take the money now and run almost, doesn't it? Because it puts us in a position, I guess, where come the summer, we can either spend it now, or I think I'd prefer to wait till the summer, but it gives us an option to go, right, we've got that chunk of, let's say it's 200 grand once he's got promoted with Portsmouth. We're throwing figures out here. Right? We've got 200 grand sorted there. We've saved the wage. We've also saved the wage we were going to pay him in terms of the extra wage. We can look in the summer, whether we're in League One or League Two, and go, right, we're going to go and pick off one of the best midfielders in League Two and sign him up with that fee and also the wage that we would have paid for him. And it just made, whereas if you left in the summer, you don't have that fee, do you? And as much as the politics are putting money in, it's a good thing to have that extra money there to spend.
Yeah, definitely. And, that in the summer, obviously, players will be on free transfers. And if it is sort of around 200 grand, that's a player on like $4,000 a week. So that'd be a very, very good player on a free. Or, we could do what we did with Moxon again and just sign sort of someone who's done well in a lower league, at a lower level, and take a punt on them for not a lot of money and build them back up again.
Yeah, but that money's there. I mean, the key thing, I think, is when you look at the club's statement, Dan, isn't it, that the club has said that money's going to be reinvested. There's no case of, like, in the past, we've had to bank that money to cover losses and things like that, haven't we? There's a very clear message there. We're going to spend that money to bring someone in at some point.
Yeah. Well, look, the way the club's run is completely evolving at present. With the takeover happening not until November, this, certainly off the field, was always going to be a transformation season.
Yeah.
Come the summer, regardless of what division we're in, we will be a hell of a lot more settled off the field. I'm not saying we're unsettled, we're not, but clearly there's a transition in progress from the old new ownership to the new ownership, and things will change for the good, for the better. Some people might say for the worse. You can't please everyone, but let's see where we are in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a little Twitter thread on Moxon yesterday because I was getting a little bit wound up by some of the nonsense I was seeing some of our fans posting about him, and I'm surprised how much traction he got. I didn't think he would get as much traction. It's got a ridiculous number of views and likes and whatnot, and I think that's a really good thing, is enough as much to show Owen that actually, the fans do appreciate what he's done for us. And this idea, I've seen some idea of people like he's down tools, or he's not been bothered, or he's some people making out, Mike, aren't they? Like he owes us a living, basically, and he owes the club for finding from obscurity, which is just nonsense, isn't it? At the end of the day, he's delivered last season and getting us promoted from a position where we'd been terrible the season before.
Exactly. If he did owe us anything, he more than repaid that debt last season. And I think the thing is, sometimes it's a minority that are the loudest. We sort of saw it with Kyle Dempsey on Saturday. He was getting a few boos and stuff, but I think there was probably more people not booing him. But the people not booing him didn't make a noise, so it sounds like there's more people booing him. But actually, and like with Moxon, you can only wish him the best. Like you say, everyone's done things right. He's going to probably go on and have a very good career in the game, and I wish him all the best. Genuinely, he always gave everything for the club. The amount of games last season that he sort of turned around on his own, and frankly, last season, I think it was Nick Brown that said this on Twitter. I know he didn't win Player of the Year award, but he was the best player in League Two last season, and it's been about 20 years since I think we can say that we had the best player in the league. So. Yeah. It was a pleasure to watch him, and players move on, and it's always been the way, and just wish him all the best.
We got him for now. He scored 9 goals in 82 games and something like 23 assists in that time. Got us promoted. We were win at Wembley, and we got
penalty at Wembley as well.
Penalty at Wembley, and we reckon at least a 6-figure fee from him. You know what? He owes us absolutely nouse. So good luck to the lad. Except for next Saturday, when I hope John Mellish boots him up the arse after 5 minutes. 5 minutes might be a little.
He is partial to a dead leg, isn't he?
I know. Oh, you've got to
seconds.
You've got to make it look subtle, Dan, at the very least. But there you go.
John Mellish and subtle do not go together.
I mean, that's a very good point. Actually, to be fair, Big John will be right up in before you even know it. It won't have even kicked off, probably.
I hope it's like the tunnel when Keenan Vieira went at it.
Yeah, or like Gary Neville when Peter Schmeichel tried to shake his hand when he wanted to keep and he just refused. There you go. Right, let's move on to the next one then. This is a bit of a sad one, but I think it kind of makes sense as well. Joe Garner, it was rumoured for a couple of weeks that Oldham were interested, and it was confirmed yesterday that he'd left the club to join the Latics on a free transfer on an 18-month deal. linking up with his former Blues teammate Brendan Dickinson, also other former Blues, Hallam Hope and Magnus Norman there, I think as well. Paul Murray's the assistant manager to Mickey Mellon there as well, I think. Yeah, damn, this guy kind of makes sense, doesn't it, really? It's just, he's done a brilliant job this season in terms of leading the line when we playing more probably than we would have expected. But he was never likely to get a longer deal with us, and this gives him 18 months and prolongs his career a bit longer, nearer to home. It's a good move for all parties in the end.
Yeah, it's sensible. He was brought in last season to do a job, which he did.
Yeah.
Part of the promotion team. Like I say, would he have got a new contract at the end of the season? Probably not. He's not gone to a direct rival. He's got an extra year closer to home. And, he's had 4 spells at the club technically. And he's worked his socks off in every one of them. And I don't like using the word legend because I think there's very few legends. But he's certainly one of the greats of cult. No, more than a cult hero, I would say. I would say certainly in the 21st century, he's one of our greats. He's got 40 odd goals in 130 appearances, numerous yellow cards, crunching tackles. He never gave less than 100%. And there's a lot of young footballers could look at a player like Joe Garner and learn a hell of a lot from him. Yeah,
I think he's just below that legend status, isn't he? Of the likes of your Alan Ross's, your Peter Beardsley's, people like that. He's a level just below that, along with people like like your Warren Aspinalls and people like that. That's the kind of level he's at, isn't he? Proper slightly more than cult heroes, but not quite the full on all-time legend sort of thing. But it's still a brilliant player. Mike, how do you reflect on his 4th spell with the club and how it went?
Yeah, he came in, he caused havoc, he got us promoted, and he left. That's pretty much all we wanted from him. And I'd imagine as well at conference level, I think he'll be a very, very, very good player for Oldham.
Yeah, can I just say I'm disappointed you missed off Ethan Walker from the list of ex-Blues at Oldham.
Oh God, yeah, he is. We mentioned him the other week that he was on loan there, didn't we?
Yeah. Can you believe he's only 21-year-old, that lad?
That blows. There was someone else the other day that was mentioned. It was someone else, and I can't remember who it was. And their age was really young as well. And Jack Marriott still blows my mind that he's only 29, I think, or something.
Yeah. When there was rumours of him a couple of weeks ago, I was like, it must be 31, 32 now. 29, bloody hell.
Yeah, it's prime, isn't he? But there you go. I mean, do you guys want to pick out some of your favourite moments of Joe Garner, especially this time around?
It's got to be the Hartlepool.
That tackle against Hartlepool.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. That was incredible. I still can't quite work out whether it actually should have been a foul or not. So many angles are seen. It looks like he runs the ball, and others you're like, oh, he basically just took the lad out there. And the fact that he runs from so far away is brilliant. Yeah,
he didn't touch him for me. I think, obviously you'll have people say, oh, he broke his ankle and he's out for months. No, I don't believe it. I think the lad is just too embarrassed that a 34-year-old or however old Garner was had sort of gained 20 yards to win the ball off him. So, yeah.
No, I agree with you on that one, definitely up there. And I've got to give him a shout out as well to the goal against Barrow as well. I mean, it's a combination of Moxon and Garner, that, isn't it? Brilliant bit of play by Moxon to win the ball back and play that free ball to Garner, and then lovely bit of composure to smash it into the bottom corner. And yeah, I think the goal at Stevenage as well this season was a really good one as well.
I was just going to say his goal at Stevenage this season was a good. You saw the passion in him when he celebrated our pal Martin, the photographer. Yeah. Took a great picture of that, didn't he?
And on top of that as well, if you watch the video highlights back, a listener and 6-second reviewer, Johnny, he was on it as well, wasn't he? There's a great shot of him running down the stairs with a bottle of water in his hand because it was like 25 degrees that day. And he was, there's lots of him celebrating that goal. So
winning against Burton this season.
Yeah, as well. Forgot about that as well. But yeah, I mean, look, his all-round contribution, it's not just the goals, is it? In terms of the way he leads the line, like you said, he's been fantastic. And it was getting to the point where we were running him into the ground, and hopefully...
We said this when he signed, re-signed for the umpteenth time. Joe Garner is your classic. When he plays for you, you love him. When he plays against you, you're like, oh shit, not him.
And we're lucky enough that we've had him play for us 4 times. So there you
Yeah.
go. So all the best to Joe, and I'm sure he'll do well at Oldham. And they're pushing for a place in the National League playoffs, so you never know. I think Chesterfield are probably going to win the title at that level, aren't they?
Chesterfield should win the title now.
So
But
it's still got a chance. I mean,
no, well, they're sat in 6th at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we could be playing against them next season at this rate, the way it's going, but hopefully not in the nicest way possible, but there you go. Right, final bit of news. I'm just double-checking. We haven't signed anyone yet, have we? No one's seen any updates? Nope.
Well, there was another update.
It's all quiet in this hedge at Brunton Park, there, I mean.
There was a signing made after last week's episode was recorded, wasn't there?
Well, yes, because we can mention him now. So we'll talk about finally the reserves. They got through into the semi-final of the Cumberland Cups after a pretty routine 4-1 win at Penrith. Did you go to this one, Dan? I can't remember if you said you did or not.
No, I was working.
Yes, okay. Yeah, a pretty routine win for the Blues. It was quite a strong side that faced up against it's the Bonnie Blues, isn't it? Penrith. I can't remember the nickname is. The Bonnie Blues. Yeah, and the goals were scored by Jaden Harris-Brace, Anton Dudick, which we'll talk about in a minute, and Jake Allen, the youth team player. He got a goal late on with DJ Taylor, the former Blues youth team player, scoring for Penrith. Yes, Anton Dudick. This one was announced last week, just after we recorded it. Sort of out of nowhere, but sort of not, because there was a few people posted online that there was a young lad training, a Ukrainian lad training with the youth team, wasn't there? And I thought that's just some weird nonsense rumor that. Turns out it was true. So yeah, this is an unusual one, Dan, but potentially the first Ukrainian to play for the Blues.
Yeah, it was very left field, like I say. There was, talk of a young kid had been playing. He's actually a year older than the youth team, but,
They're one overage player.
Yeah, I think the reason we've actually given him the contract is it allows him to play reserve games, etc. And, it's... and by all accounts, he played. I know we were only, no disrespect to Penrith, we were only playing Penrith in the Cumberland Cup, but apparently he was quite neat, tidy, scored a goal, could have had another. And yeah, sometimes these curveballs can come good, and why not?
It's an interesting, wasn't it? Simo's been very clear that he's not for the first team now, isn't he? Basically, I think he's saying he's someone that we're bringing in to see how he fits in. But he seems quite impressed with him, and Mike, doesn't he? And he seems quite taken to him, doesn't he? And his attitude, he seems to be quite infectious. And he's like, yeah, this lad, mate, you never know. I guess he's one way, if he does well enough, we can give him a 1-year deal next season, and it gives him time to develop, because Simo has said he wants a bigger squad with more of a B team element to it as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, with him, I was thinking along the lines of Naki Wells when we signed him. And
yes.
Greg wanted to extend Naki Wells' deal, but the board basically said, look, if we can't afford to sign like a project, if he's not going to be in the team this season, you need to let him go. And obviously Greg let him go and he had a very good career, but now the club is in a position where we can maybe afford to, give these players a bit of a go. And yeah, hopefully, there's nothing to lose at the end of the day with him. He won't be on a lot of money. So yeah, hopefully a good little project and can come good for us.
Yeah, interesting to see how he gets on. But he'll be playing for the youth team, as I mentioned there. The youth team are allowed to actually name, I think it's 1 or 2 overage players in each squad. And
one, I think.
Usually that's the goalkeeper that they use, isn't it? Gabe Breeze got a few games last season, I think, playing as an overage goalkeeper for the youth team. But yeah, no update on Gabe Breeze's contract, though, actually. Noticed that's gone a bit quiet again, hasn't it? So interesting to see how that one develops. Right, let's get on to them. We've put it off. Cal United 1, Bolton Wanderers 4. Match review time. I would say it's in a wake-up call. This is just another example, isn't it, Dan, of how big a step up it's been to League One this season. Because Bolton, for me, in this game, they just looked a cut above.
Yeah, the one that really sealed it was when they brought the 2 strikers on for the 2 strikers, which was our old trick last season. And you're looking and you're thinking, bloody hell, these 2 they're bringing on are possibly better than the 2 they're taking off. It's. Well, I mean, that was a different level.
Jerome could have scored 2 within his first 2 or 3 minutes of coming on. He missed 2 really good chances, didn't he, Cameron Jerome? It just had that feeling after about 10, 20 minutes, wasn't it, of this is going to be a long, long afternoon. Mike, obviously you'll have watched the game back, and it's just they just look so comfortable on the ball, Bolton, compared against us. It kind of, I don't want to say men against boys is a bit harsh, but at times it looked like that, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was one of them as well. Once they got the first goal, I think our heads just dropped, and obviously they got the second only 5 minutes later. It was always going to be a long afternoon from that point on.
I mean, we'll talk about those chances in a sec, but we actually nearly equalised in between those two goals, which is the mad thing, really. But there you go. In terms of the starting 11, Dan, when that was announced, only one change from the Barnsley defeat. A good performance against Barnsley it was. Jack Armour was dropped out of the matchday squad, and Jack Robinson returned to the matchday squad in his place. And on the bench, new signings Jack Diamond and Josh Vella came in place of Finback and Taylor Charters. I think Taylor Charters was the 19th man because he was doing the warm-up with the team. Were you particularly surprised that maybe like Vella didn't come into the start?
I can see why pretty much the same team as Barnsley, but there was a bigger gap than normal. If it had been the Saturday right afterwards, yes, absolutely. Given that we'd signed a couple, I think Diamond was always going to come off the bench first game.
Yeah.
While he gets up to... He's got fitness, he just needs match fitness. Obviously, there's a difference between the two. Vella, I thought he maybe would start, but, then you look and you think, well, who's he starting ahead of, It wasn't going to be Neil and it wasn't going to be Moxon. You're probably looking at McAlmont, but then you're thinking... it's a mix-up, right, etc. I can see why we started with the same. Maybe you would have thought about starting Gibson over Butterworth purely off the back of the hat-trick. When the team sheets went round, did Bolton think, that's all right, he's on the bench today?
Yeah,
he ripped us last time.
You do wonder, though, there's clearly a bit of a thing there at the moment, isn't there? Simo doesn't seem to be trusting him as much in terms of his defense.
Well, like I keep saying, if you could mould Gibson and Butterworth into one, you'd have a great player, I think.
Yeah, you probably would. I think, to be honest, most of the elements will come from Gibson, if we're being brutally honest there. Let's talk about goals and major incidents then. The first goal, Ashworth scored after... they had one chance early on, which was blocked from Magoma, blocked by Jack Ellis. But then they took the lead. Now, when I saw this in real time, Mike, I thought it was a fluke, and I thought he's trying to cross that. Because from the angle I was at in the paddock, it looked like it was further out towards the wing. When you look back at it now, I still can't work out whether he meant it or not. It's a great finish from Ashworth, but there's still an element of me thinking he's maybe thinking about knocking it back across goal, and then last second changes his mind and puts it over Lewis into the net. Yeah,
well, I don't think it exactly caught his laces very sweetly, did it? I think it was a bit of a shin roller, but I think he meant it because.
Yeah.
Do you know something? I can't genuinely make my mind up whether it was a cross-come shot or he meant it. There's one angle where it looks like he shanks it, and there's another angle where he looks like he means it, and it's toss of a coin stuff.
I genuinely think he's undecided until the last second, then suddenly he's like, oh, well, I might as well just hit this, and then hits it. I don't think he decided until pretty much the ball arrived at him what he was going to do. But what you've got to say is, in the build-up, John Mellish does lose the ball. He'd been moved into midfield by this point. But there was a lot of play that went up after that. It wasn't a case of he lost the ball and bang, one pass they were in. There was a few passes after that. Josh Sheehan, he was fantastic. What a good little player he is. Lovely lofted ball over the top. Ashworth comes in and he just dinks the shot over Lewis in no real chance really. I don't think Lewis's positioning is particularly bad either, to be honest.
You're not expecting someone to pick out the top corner first time like that, are you?
No, absolutely not. So that was them taking the lead. As I mentioned, John Mellish nearly equalised. Nearly. He was inches wide. It was actually, for once, McAlmont played a cross in instead of playing the ball back, and Big John was chasing in on the edge of the box, gets a flicked header towards goal, and keeper's absolutely stranded, but flies wide of the post. And then the the Trotters get the second goal. Magoma scores, and this one was a bit too easy, wasn't it, Dan? I think when you look back at it, the ball was kept alive from a cross from the right, and Magoma picks the ball up, and he's able to step past the defender and just slot it past Lewis into the bottom corner.
Yeah, carved us open pretty easy, didn't it, for this one?
Yeah.
It was a bit disappointing, to be honest. It's bish bash bosh goal.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones, isn't it?
It reminded me a little bit of Fleetwood's equaliser against us on Boxing Day.
Yes.
The ease with which they just sort of cut us open in 2 or 3 passes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Get through to half time. Simo makes the changes. We started to look a bit stronger with the 4-3-3 with the 2 wingers actually playing on the wings. Had a bit of a go, and we got one back, and a bit of a controversial one actually. And I think Bolton have got every right to complain about this because the ball goes out for a throw-in and it goes down the line. One of our players goes to fetch it, but another player spots that a ball is on one of the cones, grabs it, but takes it right next to where the cone is, rather than 10 or 15 yards back where the ball went out of play. We react quickly. Robertson's ball into the box deflects into Gibson's path. And it's a great finish, Mike, isn't it, from Gibson, to be fair? But you can sort of get Bolton's gripes. We will be angry if that had gone against us, wouldn't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because apparently the referee was very hot on people taking throw-ins and that where they shouldn't all game, and then he wasn't hot on that. Like you say, if it was against us, I'd be aggrieved, but in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter, did it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I should say actually before that, we did have a couple of other chances. Gibson had one on the edge of the box where he got completely under the ball and sent over, and Mellish nearly scored what probably would have been goal of the season, wouldn't it, Dan? Where he rolled his man really brilliantly about 25 yards from goal and just smashed the ball on his left foot, and the keeper tipped it over the bar. And if that goes in, that might have lifted us a bit more because that was round about the hour mark, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. Look, we had little chances. Yeah. We had a little period, but we're kidding ourselves, aren't we?
No, absolutely. It's weird because there's an argument that maybe 4-1 flatters them a little bit because they got 2 goals in injury time. Yeah. But on the flip side, it didn't really flatter them because they were comfortably the better side. So, Dempsey gets his goal. Long ball forward, Bodvarsson held it up quite well. I think he played it to another one of the lads and he slotted in Dempsey, who skipped past one man and hit it through Lewis's legs to seal the deal for them. And we'll talk about his celebration in a sec, but Ogbeta then grabbed one on 90+7 when we had a corner and they broke, and he finishes it quite well into the top corner. Let's talk about Bolton and particularly, how good a team they were, but also Dempsey's celebration. I mean, as you mentioned, they're probably one of the best sides we've seen this season, I think, in terms of the way they dominated the game and just look very comfortable. And Sheehan, they've got a player who can, he looks like he's got so much time on the ball. That's one of the things that frustrated me, Dan, the fact that we didn't really ever get close to him, did we?
I think in the last 2 home games, we've been up against 2 of the best midfielders in the division in Sheehan and Brannigan.
Yeah.
And they really hammer home the step up. They really do.
Absolutely. They've made the difference. Dempsey's celebration then for his goal. He made a point about this after the game, saying he got nothing but stick and abuse, from the start. Whatever. I'll be honest with you, and obviously, Mike, you weren't there, but Dan was. I don't think the abuse he got was that bad.
Are you throwing shade at him there?
No, I'm just saying, because you were there. Sorry, that sounds like I was being bad there. I'm just saying, you were at the game, so you could hear more of what was being said in the crowd. I don't think he got that much stick, do you?
No, not at all.
Smattering of booze at best, wasn't it?
Smattering, but it wasn't. I've heard a hell of a lot worse at Brunton Park.
Yeah, he's not like McCurdy levels, for crying out loud. That's abuse.
that was abuse.
Yeah. It just seemed a bit ridiculous, and then he's doing the whole winding the crowd up and stuff like that, and I'm sure there's probably a few people in West Cumbria who are not very happy about him as well, the way he was with what happened with his court case and stuff, and that he's probably a bit lucky. Some might argue with that. It just seemed a bit silly, really, and no need all round. He could have maybe just done a little bit of a shush and then left it at that. I'd have been fine. You know what, you've done it, but he was continuously doing it. And when he came off the bench as well, he was subbed. He was doing the same there as well. No real need for it. Bit childish, but
I did find it funny how he said he'd never been back when he clearly forgot, summer of 2022 when he played in a friendly up here and then had a quiet night out in Maryport afterwards.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. That was that night, wasn't it? Oh, God. His memory's not particularly great with that, is it? Yeah, no, it is what it is. If that's the way he wants to look at it, then good luck to the lad. There's some great players in there. Like, Dempsey was brilliant, to be fair, for them. And Dacres Cogley, I think, as well, at right wing back, he looks a really good player. I think we can all accept we were beaten by the much better side, but that doesn't mean mistakes weren't made. Let's talk about the team selection. Obviously, we mentioned before, what we thought about it before the game. After the game, hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously, but is it the right call, Mike? Should he have maybe mixed it up a little bit?
I don't think many people were arguing with the lineup at the time. We played very well against Barnsley, and Bolton liked to pass the ball about as well. So the players that we had that were sort of good at nicking the ball off Barnsley, you'd think that they'd be able to do it against Bolton, but it just wasn't to be.
If I was going to put an argument forward, I maybe would have dropped Alfie for Jordan Gibson, because as much as his pressing was good against Barnsley, his quality on the ball at the moment is just really lacking, and it's becoming a bit of a problem. It's all right saying he's good at harassing and winning the ball back. That's fine, but if he then loses the ball when he wins it back again, what's the point of having him in there? You might as well not bother. And Jordan can win the ball back when he's on his game, but he also has that ability to bring the ball forward and pick players out with passes and stuff like that and put good balls into the box. So, I'm kind of, in my head, Dan, I think you've sort of made clear you think that you probably couldn't really argue with him sticking with the team, but in my head, I would have brought Jordan in.
Yeah, purely just because of how well he did last time. It's like I said a few minutes ago. If you're the Bolton sort of deep line midfield stroke defenders, you see, where's that Gibson who scored a hat-trick? He's on bench. That's a result, isn't it?
I mean, do you think just generally though, not just thinking about specifically about him coming in for a game against Bolton, do you think we really should be starting him every game at the moment because he is our best creative outlet?
Yes and no. He's so, like I said, him and Butterworth equally. Gibson, for me, shades it as the better player, but they're both. There's elements of both's player that I like, but there's elements of both player that I don't like. And I probably would have started him.
I mean, I still don't see it with Butterworth, to be honest. I can see sprinklings of the quality there. He's a very good dribbler of the ball, and he's got quite good feet, but he just doesn't have the football brain for me. I think he's a luxury in a team that's struggling at the bottom. Whereas Jordan Gibson, at the very least, he's going to create bits and pieces, going forward. Personally, I'd probably rather have Maguire up front than Butterworth at the moment. And Maguire's obviously fallen quite strongly out of favour in recent times, but for me, I just think Maguire's going to be a better option.
He'll be starting on Saturday the way we're looking up front.
Not much choice, is there, right now, to be honest? We're still
unless we unleash Terry Ablade.
You never know. He's apparently played well against Penrith in the Cumberland Cup. So
I actually think, I know I'm veering off topic a little bit here.
Yeah.
Terry Ablade's pace might actually end up being quite a useful outlet as the season goes on late in games.
Alongside Armstrong as well. I mean, if we're going to be playing this sort of way of we need to be pressing teams, him being able to run at them and constantly press would actually probably be a good outlet potentially. But there's maybe a little bit of lack of quality over Ablade, but that pressing, maybe that's where we need it in that sort of front two rather than in the midfield possibly.
For me, what we need to bring in a striker with pace today, because last season it was really good when we sort of had J.K. Gordon for 60 minutes and then brought Patrick on for 30 or vice versa. I think just Ablade on his own maybe isn't enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what Simo started doing recently again is the old tactic of switching to 4-3-3, because we're playing 3-5-2, so you can push Mellish into midfield. Problem with this is, it's Alfie McCalman is the player who's moving to the wing. and he's not a winger in the slightest. He drifts back inside to the centre, which leaves your right back completely exposed with no one tracking back to support him.
Right, on the mention of McAlmont, what exactly is he? Because this season you struggle to answer that question for me.
It's tough. He's quite a good harrying midfielder, but he's not playing with confidence at all, is he? You know, last season his tail was up and he came into it. You know, he started really well, got that goal, you know, and he looked like a player who's going to cause problems. Since coming in permanently, he's been in and out of the team, and he doesn't feel like he knows quite what his role is. I don't think he works as that almost like that number 10 of the midfield three. You know, he's not quite full on number 10, but, you know, he's the one who's more advanced. Yeah, he's good at the pressing side of it, but like I said, when he moves to the right wing, it's just a waste of a player there because he's not... You put one decent cross into Mellish at the weekend, but then beyond that, obviously he was subbed at half-time because we needed to get width out there.
See, my hope for McAlmont this season was he came in on loan last season, did well, and I was thinking, right, we're stepping up to League One. You've played League One before. He is your chance to step up and he's selling you the Northern Ireland squad.
Yeah, and
there's players at this level play for Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's not happened, has it, so far?
No.
Mike, in terms of that 4-3-3 switch, do you think that we can only really do that if someone like Jordan Gibson or maybe Jack Diamond is playing in that midfield three?
Yeah, I think so. Because, like you say, McAlmont is almost a waste of a player when he's on the right, whereas, in my opinion, I think Gibson, maybe right wing is his best position. I think he's very good out there, and sometimes when he wanders, when he sort of drifts inside because he wants the ball, he seems to find the ball, whereas McAlmont, when he wants the ball and drifts inside, he just doesn't. The game just passes him by a bit. So I think you need to be sort of starting Gibson because he can seamlessly just slot into that right wing or even left wing slot.
Yeah, and then you need someone like a Diamond or an Oblade playing up front with Armstrong, who could then go to the other wing position, can't you? So there you go. Let's talk about the debuts then for Diamond and Vela. I thought Jack Diamond looked a bit rusty at first, but grew into the game.
Natural, I think.
Yeah, 100%. That's not a criticism. You'd totally expect that. I think Simo himself said, didn't he? We really wanted to only give him half an hour, but because we were so desperate and we were struggling so much, he needed to bring him in and actually try and change things. I think he grew into the game, and you saw little sparks of what he can do in his dribbling ability. And Josh Vela, that lad likes to tackle, doesn't he, Dan? Because there was one tackle he put in on the edge of our box. Blimey. I was like, oof. But it was perfectly fair tackle. You know, he won the ball. The lad was down for a little bit, wasn't he? But what's your initial thoughts on having seen both of them?
Diamond, obviously, again, he's got fitness, just not match fitness, a little bit rusty. There was a couple of times when he got on the ball and he was very old-fashioned wing player. I think we need to remember he's had 2 full seasons playing alongside Luke Armstrong at Harrogate.
Yeah,
he'll know exactly what runs Armstrong likes to make. I don't think it'll take them too long to build up an understanding. Good, decent 45-minute run out. Would I start him this week? Probably, yeah. Vela, I'm a little bit of surprise he maybe didn't start, but I suppose with the move and that, I can see why. I would probably have brought him on at half-time because I thought it was unfair to expect Mellish to play a full hour in midfield against that quality of midfield. Like I said on the social, 15, 20 minutes as a emergency gap stop. That hour, I don't think that was fair on him. Vela probably isn't the fastest player, but I think it's pretty clear. Well, you just look at his record of yellow cards, it's pretty clear he gets stuck in. Him and Harrison Neal will start collecting yellow cards very quickly, I think.
100%. And I do wonder if maybe when we have this money to spend from the Moxon deal, we maybe need to look at a midfielder who's got a bit of pace, because it's starting to look a little bit one-paced, that midfield. I think it's fair to say, isn't it? It's not the quickest.
The midfield's looking light.
Yeah.
Because you've got guys injured for the season.
Yeah.
You've got Neil and Vella.
Yeah.
You've got Charters, who has a little knack of picking up an injury.
Yeah.
McGeoch, sometimes he's been out the picture.
Yeah, he's
and
got a favour.
two-goal Cumberland Cup, Jaden Harris.
Yeah, I knew you were going to mention the Sweet Prince there. I knew you were desperate to get his name mentioned. But he's back in contention at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a loan deal. He can always go and loan to a National League club after the window shuts, so there's always that option. But I do wonder if we can't get anyone in, so we'll just keep him for now and just let's see what we need over the next few weeks. I think it's a big opportunity for Charters, actually, Mike. What do you think of the next few weeks, possibly to stamp his place in the team?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been a massive fan of Charters, and I think he could well be the natural successor to Moxon. He's got a good laugh peg on him, a good set piece, which is always worth having him on the pitch for. But as Dan said, I don't want to throw the word injury prone about, but you do kind of worry about his injury record.
Yeah, no, and the fact that it seems to be hamstring injuries every time, that does worry.
I think if the worst happens and we do go to League Two next season, I think it's a great opportunity for Charters to really stamp his name in the team.
Definitely, and Ellis as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of Ellis, it was a tough game for him up against Ashworth, who looked a very good player for Bolton as well. Do you wonder if maybe Finn Back comes back in next week? Obviously, he had a slight knock, I think he picked up in training, hence why he missed this one, Finn Back. But yeah, I do almost wonder if maybe getting back in the team, and obviously Emmanuel will be back after that. Do you maybe get Ellis and move to the National League on loan just to keep him ticking over for the rest of the season? At the moment, he's in the team there on merit, but it's just one of those things to consider, Dan, maybe.
It's really weird at both full-back positions because, again, something else I said this week, all our full-backs aren't full-backs or true wing-backs. They're sort of full wing-backs.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think Emmanuel's probably the nearest we've got to be a full-on. I think he's very much a wing-back in the way he plays. He's not quite as good defensively.
Yeah. Well, he's certainly more attacking than defensive-wise. But I mean, if Ellis, Emmanuel and Back are all fit, I think Back starts at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
Emmanuel, you would probably use as your backup. So, yes, maybe getting a loan move for Ellis, but Back and Emmanuel have both had knocks, so it's...
Yeah.
And on the left side, it looks like we're just chopping and changing between Armour and Robinson at the moment, so...
Yeah.
I think that the stage that Back's at with his recovery, he's probably at the stage now where he needs to play 60 minutes. So I'd keep Ellis around to bring him on for him at that point.
He does seem like, obviously, he only wants to have one full-back on the bench. He doesn't want, a left wing-back and a right wing-back, and it seems the right side is the one he's more likely to put on at the moment.
But Ellis can sort of play right centre-back as well if needed, so he gives you a bit of versatility on the bench.
Yeah, that's very true. Right, I think we've probably talked enough about the game, so let's just do a quick round-up of the League One results from last weekend. I mean, some not ideal results for us. Starting off with Barnsley 1, Exeter 2.
I'm going to make a disclaimer here.
Go on.
From this point forward, I don't give a shit about other teams at the moment.
Fair enough.
No. Because there's a big gap.
Yeah.
And as Paul Simpson has said a couple of times, we need to take care of our business first.
No,
and
absolutely.
we haven't been doing that. So let's just look at our result each week and move from there. But yeah, carry on.
No. It's a really fair point. No, but it was just frustrating when you saw it come through. You think that's just typical. We go to Barnsley and dominate, and we end up with a 2-1 loss. And Exeter have gone there and picked up a 2-1 win, which just summed it up, doesn't it? Blackpool 1, Charlton 1. Bristol Rovers 3, Oxford United 1. That was a surprise result, wasn't it? Because Oxford are flying. And Bristol Rovers had been struggling as well, typically. Cambridge 0, Burton 0. Obviously, we lost 4-1 against Bolton. Derby 2, Cheltenham 1. That was a good one for us because Cheltenham were winning at one point in that game, I think. So that was good news. Lincoln 0-0 against Peterborough. Northampton lost 2-0 at home against Shrewsbury. We've just appointed Paul Hurst, I think, as manager again. So he'll be looking to perform a miracle with them, I think. Port Vale 0, Portsmouth 1. Oh, we've got to talk about this briefly before we go any further. I think everybody's seen it, haven't they? The clip of the fella running on the pitch to confront the referee.
Oh my God.
62-year-old.
62 years old. I couldn't believe that one as well. I was like,
he had a bit of turn of pace on him.
I was going to say, if you said we need pace and attack,
Could you do a job for us?
Go on, get him signed up. Bit of experience in there as well. Just ridiculous that was, to be fair, but there you go. Reading 1, Leyton Orient 1. Wigan lost 3-2 at home against Stevenage, and Wycombe drew 2-2 with Fleetwood. I think that wraps up the
I'll tell you something. I'm just looking at the league table. It's got to be some battle for them top two spots, isn't it? Because you've got Portsmouth, Bolton, Peterborough, Derby, Barnsley, Oxford, and even Stevenage, if they win a couple of games in hand, are bang in the mix.
Yeah, it's very tight at the top, and it's actually very tight at the bottom actually as well. Once you jump the gap up from us to the outside the relegation zone, there's only about 3 or 4 points separating about 10 places, isn't it? It's
5.
Well, that's
Lincoln are in 12th on 35. Port Vale are in 20th on 30.
Well, there you go.
We've had relegation dogfights in the past, though, where basically there's been that one team just above the relegation zone that we're trying to close down. And, if you're lucky enough to get a win and they get a win, well, you haven't gained any ground. But because this year there's like 3 or 4, 5 teams sort of that you're trying to close down on. So when we get a win, chances are not all of them teams are going to win. So chances are we are going to be gaining ground.
Yeah, that's what we're going to hope for anyway. That's what we're going to pray for. Right, we're going to take a short break. After the break, and we're back for part 2, where I will be speaking to Paul from the Orient Outlook Podcast. We're going to talk about how they found life in League One this season, much better than us, I think it's fair to say. How they dealt with the loss of their 2 best players in Vigouroux and Paul Smith last season. And basically some thoughts on the January transfer window, because I don't think they've been particularly busy in it, it's fair to say. Right, we'll be back just after this break.
Hi, it's Tom Piatic II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yes, welcome back. We're into part 2 of this week's episode of the Brunton Bugle, which of course means it's time for Behind Enemy Lines, where we talk to an opposition fan about their team ahead of the big game this weekend. And of course, we're playing our good friends Leyton Orient. We've played them quite a lot down the years. And we're speaking to Paul from the Orient Outlook Podcast today. Paul, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, Lee. Thanks for having us on. Good to be chatting to you, and hopefully come the end of the season, you'll be above that dotted line rather than where you are at the moment.
Well, it remains to be seen right now. We're recording this. This is weird because we record the main podcast on Thursday afternoon, and we were hoping we'd have some signings done by the time I spoke to you this evening on Thursday evening. As it is, we're still sort of sitting there looking 2.5 hours to go. Is someone going to come in? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see with that. But let's talk about Leyton Orient then. And so you guys were promoted as champions in League Two last season. You were comfortably the best side we played last year, just all round a really polished outfit. You did lose 2 of your best players over the summer on free transfers, and yet you seem to have taken to League One pretty well. You must be really pleased with how things have gone so far.
Delighted. If you'd have said to me we'd be 9th, 10th, 11th, around that sort of spot at this point, at any point in this season, would have bitten your arm off for it, because being comfortable in this league, adjusting to a higher league, is never easy, as you well know. But Stevenage and Northampton are also up there, so we're not an exception to the rule. We're kind of part of that, and so from our perspective, we have a transfer team who look to buy players who are capable of playing at the next level. We have a cycle, like a 3 to 4 year cycle, where we improve the squad season upon season and sign players who can get us to that next stage. People that either have potential or have played at a higher level, and for whatever reason it's not worked out for them and they've dropped down, but have that pedigree and quality that Richie can work with. But he knows how his side wants, how he sets up. We're very fluid and we're very dangerous. We've got some great athletic players, some great ball winning and dribbling players as well. So from that point of view, transfers are not an exact science. You do your best and you hope that the signings will pay off. Not all of them do. Nothing's perfect. But yeah, we lost our 2 best players. Quite rightly, Lawrence Vigouroux earned a move up the leagues. He was clearly by far the best keeper in that Division 2 last season, clearly playing below his capability. So we obviously, his contract had run out and he's gone and joined Burnley. I think he's wasted there, but from a financial perspective, it helps his family for life. So I don't judge him that. He deserves that move. And I think he's just gone on loan to a League of Ireland side as well. So that's a bit of a shame. Paul Smith, helped. He was our leading scorer, helped drag us through games, kept us up the pitch, great athleticism, suffered a lot with injuries, but we had to manage that. I don't think they're doing so well with him like that at QPR because he still has his injuries and he's not in the side as much. Great little player. But, we replaced him with Dan Ajay, who has also suffered some injuries this season, it's fair to say. And just as he's got going, we fear, this is not an exclusive, it's been doing the rounds on our hashtag LOFC, on our LOFC hashtag on Twitter, that he's possibly injured. We don't know for sure. The club haven't announced. But he's in form, 4 goals in 4 games. So from that point of view, it's very much, we're hoping that that's not true. We also lost Jordan Graham, another experienced winger that we brought in. We lost him a few months ago. He's on his recovery. He's done his knee, so he's had his operation. He's in recovery now. 2 really impactful players that aren't cheap that we brought in, and we've seen the quality that they have. We just need to get them back firing on all cylinders, and I think we'll be a dangerous outfit next season if we can keep the main skeleton of our side together. Obviously, we've got players out of contract come the end of the season, but I think we've recruited well. We've recruited sensibly, not only in the summer, where we were able to keep nigh on the majority of our squad together, which I think is important for consistency.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously about the step up there. I'm just curious as to how you guys have found it, because as a club and our fan base, we've always looked at these games. I mean, the opening game of the season, we played Fleetwood at home, and we were like, wow, these guys are better than pretty much every club we've played last season before. We thought they were going to be a mid-table side, and right, this is a real test. And you look at them, they're below us in the table. So there's a kind of feeling of like it is a real step up from League Two in our thoughts. But I don't know how you guys have found it.
Well, we started off, we lost our first game to Charlton 1-0 in a game where we probably should have walked away with something. I missed that game, and I missed the next game, Portsmouth at home, that we lost 4-0. But Rich is adamant that wasn't a 4-0 game. We had 8 or 9 players out injured as well. If we'd have been a bit more clinical at either end, that's probably a 2-0 game or maybe a 2-2 draw, something like that. But the score doesn't lie. It was 4-0. We lost it. That's cool. Portsmouth top of the league and all the rest of it. But the good thing is that when Rich is coming on the podcast and doing the post-match interviews, he's very pragmatic about it. He never gets high with the highs or low with the lows. He looks at the performances in isolation and looks for what did we do well and what didn't we do well and what can we improve on. So from that point of view, he's always pragmatic with how he looks at things, and he knows what he sees from his squad and he knows what he wants from his squad. So I think arguably we've gone toe to toe with some of the best teams in this league, and we've given them a run for their money. Some we've lost and some we've won. Bolton just before Christmas on the 23rd, we lost that 3-2. We were 3-0 down inside 9 minutes in the first 9 minutes, and then we pulled 2 goals back in the second half. Probably could have equalised and come away with a point, but we didn't. But since then, we haven't lost. Arguably one of the form sides of the league. So we don't really fear anybody, to be honest with you. We went to Portsmouth, beat them. Beat Charlton, drew with Wickham. Cambridge, got points against Cambridge. So, there are some dangerous sides in this league that if you don't keep your guard up and play on form, they will tear you apart. There's no question.
Yeah, you've got me worried now because you talk about all these good teams you've beaten, and we've beaten Bolton, and that's about it in terms of the good teams this season. But there you go. I want to talk about your summer recruitment, because your winter recruitment's been pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Your summer recruitment, the players you mentioned Ajayi there, but of the other players you brought in, who particularly is impressed? Obviously, Brandon Cooper you've made into a permanent deal in January as well.
We did.
You mentioned Jordan Graham. Joe Piggott's one that always stood out for me he was really good in the game at Brunton Park. I thought in terms of being a target man, he really gave you a focal point. And obviously being able to bring back Idris El Mazouni as well, that must be a real bonus for you.
I think you're absolutely right. Idris El Mazouni was probably the signing that we didn't think was ever going to happen. And Martin Lin came on our podcast And he said, he was sitting on his couch one evening and thought, you know what, I'm just going to drop him a text message. And he did. And Idris responded straight away and said, I want to come back. Can you make it happen? And so he did. So from that point of view, he was probably one of the signings that we felt we really needed. Then Ajayi was brought in to replace Paul Smith. Unfortunately, he's been injured he broke down or broke his leg. I can't remember what he did in pre-season. And that kept him out till about December. And so we've just started to see him reintegrated into the squad. And he's done really well of recent time. We also signed Jordan Graham. Jordan is a very good player. Helped us get up the pitch, helped us stay up the pitch. His pinpoint crossing, his ability to find a yard of space and cross in was dangerous. I think Joe Pigott has been a bit disappointing. He's probably admit himself that he's not had the best of times. He's not a starter. He comes on, tall guy, but I don't think he likes to be the target guy. I think he likes the ball into feet. Richie doesn't really play with an out-and-out, 9 and 10. He does a 4-2-3-1 and loose variations and fluid arrangements around that. So when we're defending, it's quite compact. So it doesn't really work that way. Dan Ajayi has been of recent time. He's been the one up top with 3 behind him. So from that point of view, he comes on and sort of either helps us keep the game calm and with his experience. But I think, he needs a couple of more goals, and I think that will probably give him a massive boost as well. We also had come in to us Ethan
Galbraith, was it?
Signing, I think he was from Manchester United. Yeah, and Shaq Ford, young lad from Watford, who's of recent time been absolutely excellent out wide in a right or the front of the 3 that sits behind the 1. He's been on the right of that, and as a striker, he's done extremely well of recent time as well, grown into that role. And we re-signed Ed Turns, left centre back. We signed him again from Brighton. Again, he had a great season with us last season. Was very, very useful for what we were trying to achieve. And Richie managed to get him back, or Martin managed to get him back on loan for this season. Bit injured, went out and played with Wales under 21s. I think he's their captain. So we've got a good pedigree of backup players as well. Dan Happy and Omar Beckles are doing tremendous at the back. So him and Brandon aren't getting starting berths at the moment, which says a lot because they're good young players.
You really are terrified me with how good your squad sounds at the moment. I mean, form-wise, you are the second best team in the division of the last 6 games. I mean, and the thing is, people might look at it and go, maybe they've been playing against weaker opposition. Well, you've beaten.
We haven't.
Bolton? Was it Bolton you beat? Was it?
No, we lost to Bolton.
Oh, sorry.
We lost 3-2 to Bolton just before Christmas. We then came home and beat Charlton. We drew with Wickham. We then went to Cambridge on New Year's Day and beat them 2-0. We beat Portsmouth in their backyard 3-0.
Yes, that was it. Portsmouth.
That was the game changer. I think that was the one where everyone sat up and took notice of us because we went to top of the table Portsmouth and turned them over convincingly. It wasn't even a lucky win. That was a convincing performance, and Portsmouth were probably not at it. John Messina was obviously quite livid, or whoever the Portsmouth manager was quite livid about that. So. And then we beat Bolton at home, and then we went away to Reading last week and we got a draw there. They're no easy side either. They're probably in a bit of position as well. But, we don't really fear anyone. We're well organised. We're hard to beat. We've got a hard-working, physically fit side. But, every dog has its day. Hopefully you don't have yours on Saturday against us, and wish you well for the rest of the season. But, I don't want to see you go down.
I mean, you guys look like you're heading towards a comfortable mid-table position. Do you think a playoff place is probably just a little bit too far out of reach this season?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the table at the moment, we need about another 10 or 15 points really to get that comfortable spot. And I think there are teams who will push on and probably maybe even push past us. Or if they don't, they'll just cement their positions in the league at the moment. I think probably the outer liar in that chasing pack are probably Stevenage. To be perfectly honest, who are a sort of smallerish club to us by comparison. But I think if you were a betting person at the beginning of the season, you'd have had Portsmouth, Bolton, Peterborough, Derby, Barnsley, probably Oxford and Blackpool in the mix. I think the only ones, I mean, Wigan have had the points deduction, haven't they?
Yeah.
I don't think there are too
Charlton's a surprise as well. Side in May, you'd think they'd have been up there, but obviously score goals, but they can't keep clean sheets is the problem. So
that's exactly right. I think the only outliers really are Charlton and Wigan are probably two. Reading and Wigan to an extent, not so much because they've had a points deduction, so they probably they're slightly in a false position as well. But yeah, I mean, arguably Charlton probably should be up there as well. But they are where they are. The table doesn't lie. We're over halfway through the season, so.
I mean, what's the hopes for you guys over the next few years? And obviously, hoping to establish yourselves in League One this season. But I guess the aim then is to try and kick on and potentially push yourselves for a place in the Championship.
That would be ideal. Yeah, that would kind of reset to where we were 10 years ago, to be honest. We were a penalty kick away in the playoff final to a certain Steve Evans' Rotherham. And our former player scored 2 worldies. And then we lost on penalties. So, we haven't got the infrastructure to be a championship side. They lose about £20 million a season. We don't have those pockets deep enough to be able to do that. So not to say that if we weren't in and around the playoffs that we wouldn't go for the push, we would. But by the same token, at the moment, it's about stabilising in this league, finding our feet, cementing ourselves as a strong League One side, and then seeing where we can go from there. We've got a stadium that we sell out pretty much every week at the moment, which is almost unheard of in Orient history. 10 years ago, we were barely getting 4,500 fans in a week, and now we're getting nearly double that. So we've come a long way, but we nearly lost our club in the process. So we'd never take for granted the fact that we are a viable, alive and kicking club, pun intended.
It's funny because I think there's a lot of parallels and similarities between our two clubs in that sense, and that you only have to go back a few years and we were struggling to get 3,000 on Tuesday night games, and now we're getting 7,000-8,000 in those games, and and like you said, we probably feel like we could be a lower end Championship club possibly. I think clubs like ourselves could need to look at the likes of Rotherham and Peterborough almost, don't we? And those clubs that sort of bounce between the Championship and League One, but they're fairly well run. They seem to turn over players and transfers quite well. They've got a bit of backing behind them in the likes of Peterborough, obviously. But I kind of think that's sort of the aim, I think, for clubs like us, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really about doing the best that you can, being a community club, having proper fans that are, a true supporters of the club. You don't want tourists coming in. That's always the danger when you go up, that you suddenly attract people that are, it diminishes the atmosphere and the togetherness and the camaraderie, and people that haven't supported us for very long are always welcomed in and part of the family. We never turn anybody away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've used up a bit of your time here, Paul, on a Thursday night when I'm sure you're waiting to see if you're going to get any signings coming in.
I'm watching my phone furiously refreshing as we speak.
I'm keeping an eye out. For I've got no notifications, I don't think, yet. Nope, still nothing coming through, I think. But there you go. Before we go, I've got to ask you for a prediction for this one. I've got a funny feeling I know what it's going to be because pretty much everyone else has predicted the same thing against us this season. So
yeah, I'm going to have to go for a win. I think I feel comfortable and confident with us, but you never know. Banana skin, like I said, every dog has its day, and you've made a whole host of new signings. In theory, it shouldn't work. It should take time to click. Because that's just human nature and human performance. But by the same token, I'm going to stick with a 2-0 win to the O's.
Paul, thanks for your time and all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend. I do say that genuinely because we do love our away days to Orient. Unfortunately, the train strikes have made it difficult this weekend for us, but genuinely, all the best. Safe
travels to everyone who's coming down, and we're a friendly club, so you'll be welcomed warmly, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the season after this, and I genuinely hope you stay up.
This is John Mellish, you listen to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back for part 3 of this week's Brunton Bugle. We just done a quick check there, haven't we, guys? And there's still no signings been made. It's inevitable. It's going to happen after we finish recording. Always the case. Always the case. Right, well, let's look ahead to this weekend's game against Leyton Orient down in London. A frustrating one, Dan, isn't it, for the fans? Because you can't get there by train because of the strikes. And, it's just the reality of it, isn't it? Avanti basically decided they don't want to run any services rather than running a limited service on the day. But, I imagine that's probably going to impact on the following for the Blues.
Yeah, always a popular away day. It's my third most visited football league ground, randomly. Yes, I did stay half a mile from the ground when I worked in London, but I only went to one non-Carlisle match at Orient. It was actually Orient Leeds, and I believe Paul Huntington sorted the tickets for my mate. So
Brilliant.
that was a long time, about 15 years ago.
Yeah. What's your second most visited?
Rochdale.
Rochdale. I thought it was going to be Rochdale. To be
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. Brunton Park, Rochdale, Leyton Orient. Then you've got your Hartlepool's and Darlingtons and York and those types.
While you're talking now, then carry on talking. Sorry, I'm going to look up what mine are. 'Cause I know what they've saved.
But yeah, no, Vanty, no trains. You can't get annoyingly, you can't get via Newcastle because the one that you could is on a diversion at the south end of the country. So you can get back as far as Hexham, I think it is. But even then, you've got to get yourself home. But yeah, disappointing, but...
Is what it is, isn't it? I'm just checking there. Brunton Park, obviously, they both visited. My second most visited is Prenton Park, Tranmere, which to be expected with where I live. And my third most visited is Rochdale as well, actually, to be fair. And then it's Oldham.
Rochdale will be high up on a lot, won't it?
Yeah, Oldham in fourth place for me as well. Yeah, Mike, so looking ahead to this game this weekend, Leyton Orient. Yeah, I think it's very fair to say that they've found their feet much quicker and much easier than we have in League One this season, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely. And you look at the summer recruitment, and I think it's just been smart, hasn't it? They've got players who are used to this level. I mean, I've spoken about him a few times in this podcast, but I think Joe Pigott was a brilliant signing. He's only scored 2 goals in 22 games, but that's not what he's about. He brings the best out of the players around him, and obviously they pipped us to that Dan Agyei. From Crew.
Ajayi,
yeah. And he's been all right. He seems to have come into a little spell of form recently. He's the kind of player that you'd see playing off Pigott. But yeah, they've taken to it like a duck to water, haven't they? And a lot of people have been saying that, the step up from League One to League Two is a lot tougher than we expected. But Orient and Stevenage certainly haven't struggled.
No, absolutely. I think one player that you were keen on, Dan, that they've signed and has done pretty well for them is Ethan Galbraith from Manchester United. He's done really well, hasn't he?
Yeah, great signing. Absolutely great signing. I was surprised he never went Championship, to be honest. And I think he will end up in the Championship. But yeah, he's exactly what we would have liked in the middle of the park.
I mean, they obviously lost Vigouroux to Burnley, who's a huge player for them. He's not actually played a game for Burnley. He's the third choice there, living the great life there, isn't it? That's one of those jobs you'd love, isn't it? A third choice goalkeeper in a Premier League club. Barely ever get to play, but you get to take a nice packet home with you. Replaced him with Sol Bryn, who obviously was at Swindon last season, and he seems to have really stepped up for them too, hasn't he?
Yeah, Solomon, to give him his official name.
Yes, Solomon.
Yeah, he was ex-Middlesbrough, wasn't he, Bryn?
Yeah, he's on loan from Middlesbrough, isn't he? I think, he's still on loan from Middlesbrough, yeah.
Was he not the one who was at Queen of the South as well on loan?
Oh, he might well have been. I'm going to double check that while you're
I'm sure they had a keeper from Middlesbrough.
Well, while you're talking, I'll look that up. But yeah, he was. He's on loan from from Middlesbrough, Queen of the South. Yeah. So yeah, no, he seems to be a player who's really made this step up, isn't he, for them as well? Obviously, he hasn't played in League Two last season. Looking through the rest, the rest of the recruitment's been quite good. They got a couple of loan players. I mean, El Mazzuni, brilliant player at this level, isn't he? Was a brilliant player at League Two level last season. He's really taken that step up too. Like you say, Mike, it's just a very... I mean, you look at the attack, they haven't really got that much in terms of goals there, but they've got so much quality in the rest of the team, it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
But last season, I think, their goals were really spread out through the team, weren't they?
Yeah. Smith got a lot.
They were like us a year when Archdeacon was top scorer.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, Theo Archibald, he's playing much more of a functional role for them this season, I think, isn't he? Because last season he was very much that front three, wasn't he? But I think he's played at wing back a lot this season, and we saw in the game at Brunton Park, he's capable of doing that sort of job for the team as well.
Yeah.
He's got real quality as well, hasn't he? Yeah. And when someone like him isn't your star player, then that kind of indicates just the quality that you actually have. Because I think if he played for Carlisle, he'd be playing every week.
Yeah, I mean, George Moncur as well, far too good for League Two level last season. He's again settled in at League One level. do you think, Dan, they're likely to be safe now? Oh, no, not safe now, but, they put themselves in a position where they'd have to go on a terrible run to end up going down, wouldn't they?
I'd be very surprised if we weren't at least mid-table by the end of the season.
Yeah. Do you think that they've gained the advantage of being, the team that finished at champions and are able to sort of plan ahead a bit more?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, they've lost those two big players, but still.
It was pretty obvious they were going to be champions fairly early, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, you will recall, chaps, that I did put them down as a dark horse for the division at the start of the season.
Bragging as usual. I mean, to be fair, none of us can talk about predictions this season. When Charlton Athletic, you look where they are at the table, I think all three of us had them to do quite well. So let's just leave it at that, shall we?
I've still got a chance on my top two. I was just having a look. I think I said Derby and Bolton.
I think I did. I think I said the different way round to you. I think I said Bolton.
Bolton champions, Derby promoted, yeah.
Is that what you...
I'm not going to talk about what I put. Anyway.
How are Wickham doing, Mike? How are Wickham Wanderers doing?
Not very well.
No. But yeah, so...
I had them as a surprise struggler, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go, Dan. You're on the money on that one, to be fair. In terms of form, they actually are the second best team in the division right now, Orient. Their record, they've only lost, I think, one of their last... in fact, they've drawn one of their last... I put 2 draws there. I think it's actually just 1 draw of their last...
They're really strange at home, though, aren't they? They're not... They don't score loads of goals at home.
No. But, yeah, they're defensively... You'd expect them to be strong defensively. When you look at the squad, though, Dan, I mean, Omar Beckles, great player. Dan Happ, great player. Level, Sweeney and... Brandon Cooper, they've signed permanently from Swansea, having been on loan for the first half of the season. They just look so solid at the back, don't they? That's the thing that really stands out. I do wonder, is Harrison Sodji one of the famous Sodji family? I wonder if
There's got to be, hasn't
a million of them, wasn't it? You'd think so, surely.
Didn't a couple of them end up fixing games or something?
I think one of them did, possibly. So let's say a couple. Let's say one, because I'm fairly sure one has.
Sodji is of Nigerian descent and related to Sam Sodji.
Well, Sam Sodji, I think, if I'm right, he's related to FA and those, isn't he? I think I'm pretty sure. I'm looking. Yeah. Sam, 4 brothers who also play football, 3 of them professionally and 1 semi-professionally. Akpo, FA, and Steve, who never played in the Football League. And another brother, Bright, used to play rugby league and rugby union. So...
Are you reading Wikipedia there by any chance?
I am. I'm reading Wikipedia. Sam Sodji's Wikipedia. Sam Sodji is the one who is linked to match fixing and money laundering allegations. So let's leave it there, shall we? Yes. So, I mean, looking at the recent results, there are some cracking recent results, haven't they? I mean, they drew 1-1 last time out with Reading, but they've beaten Bolton Wanderers 1-0. They won 3-0 at Portsmouth. That. Pretty decent side, to be fair. That certainly no mugs. It's going to be a tough game this weekend. Richie Wellens, obviously, he's Mr. Popular with the Carlisle fans, but you can't deny, Mike, he's a very good manager, though, isn't he?
He is, yeah. As much as I can't stand him, he's done a really good job. There's not a lot more that you're going to force out of me than those few words.
You're not going to get anything else nice to say about him.
It's like Steve Evans. Everybody hates Steve Evans, but begrudgingly, you've got to say he's a good manager.
Yeah, he knows his stuff, doesn't he? Yeah, there you go. Right, referee for this one, Ollie Yates from Staffordshire. It's his 8th season as an EFL referee, started in 2016. This season, he's taken charge of 24 games, handing out 103 yellows and 6 red cards. And last season, he handed out 141 yellows and 1 red card in 35 games. The last game he took charge of was the 0-0 draw with Walsall last season, and no one was booked that day. What a thrilling game that must have been. I wasn't there because I was actually in Berlin watching Hertha against Cologne, so I picked a good one to miss that weekend, I think it's fair to say.
From memory, was that not the game that was just incredibly boring?
It was just...
Was that the away one?
Well,
no,
it was up at Brunton. I'm sure that was a game where literally nothing happened.
Weren't both games 0-0 last season against
them? I remember the away one was boring.
It's still not the most boring game ever against Walsall, which has to be that game at the end of the COVID season. Do you remember? Yeah, that's how good the game was, basically. The very last game of the season we played against them, it was a dead rubber, obviously, and it finished 0-0, and just nothing happened. It was an awful... I don't know why the Football League couldn't have said, like, you know what, let's just say it was a 0-0 draw and let's not bother playing it. That would have been a better solution for everybody all around in that. But there you go. In terms of head-to-heads, it's 65th meeting between the two sides. Played them a lot, haven't we? For a team down south. They've got to be up there as probably the team, let's say, south of Birmingham that we've played the most, you'd think. 65 times. They're slightly ahead now in the head-to-heads. We've won 24, they've won 25, and 15 have been draws. We've lost the last 4 games in a row against them, including twice already this season in the league and FA Cup. Prior to that run, though, we'd only lost 1 in 9 of this fixture. So it sort of swings and roundabouts with games against Orient. We have a really good run and we have a really terrible run. There's no sort of back and forth, really, is there? It's just a consistent thing. So there you go. Let's talk about United then, looking ahead to the game. Obviously, Coyote's still out with his calf injury by the looks of things. We've had no update on that. Simo will be doing his press conference right about now while we're recording.
I'd hope he's not.
What do you mean?
I'd hope he's talking to players. Stop talking to the press today.
I know, but because they travel on a Friday, don't they, for a big long distance?
I don't think it'll be a long press conference today.
No, I think there'll probably be a lot of questions about a midfielder moving away, possibly. But there you go. Corey Whelan possibly a doubt for this because of a calf injury picked up at the start of the week, which meant he missed the Cumberland Cup game. And Josh Emmanuel was still not 100% certain when he's going to be back fit. Terry Blade is fit again now, though. He's available. So come on then, Dan. What are you thinking for this one? What do we do without Moxon going forward? Do we stick with 3-5-2? Do we go with a 4-3-3 now? We've got a couple of wingers in. How do you do that midfield? How do you balance out that midfield three as well?
I put a post up on Twitter a few days ago, and I just said, sod it, back to basics, 4-4-2, wide men who'll have a go. And I put, assuming all fit and available, and I deliberately didn't put Moxon in case he went. I came up with a team of Lewis in goal, Back and Armour, Lavelle and Mellish, Neil and Vellon in the middle, Diamond and Gibson on the wings, Armstrong and a new striker up front.
See,
and it created a little bit of debate, because
there was a good debate. And I think I was messaging you about, wasn't I? Thinking I just can't. I think 4-4-2 we get too overrun. I think that's one of the problems I actually had at the weekend was. I think Simo made a mistake with his sub bringing on Vela for Garner on. Who did Garner come on for? I can't remember now. Was it Harrison Neal? I think it was Harrison Neal, wasn't it?
I think if we went 3 up front, currently, obviously bear in mind we may sign players later today. Mm-hmm. I think you're looking at Gibson and Diamond either side of Armstrong. I think that's our strongest 3.
Yeah,
and I think in the middle you're definitely going to have Neil and Vela playing.
Yeah.
And the question is it McAlmont or another?
Charters for me. I'd go that free. I would go that free because I think the Charters, you need someone who's going to get hold of the ball and play those threaded passes to get those wingers in behind and stuff like that.
He'll also get up and down on the left side a bit as well.
Yeah, and he also, something we need to consider, he offers a set-piece option. Because at the moment, the only set-piece option we're going to have is Robinson, I think, and there's no guarantee he's going to start. He might start Armour in games, so that's something we actually need to consider now Moxon's gone.
And Charters offers that shot from outside the box as well that can sometimes just cause, if it doesn't go in, it can cause a bit of havoc. So,
yeah, no. I mean, what would you do, Mike, in terms of selection? I mean, I presume if we're going back forward, we're going back with Lavelle and Mellish in there as well, but I don't know. Yeah.
I can see Dan's case for 4-4-2 because we're struggling really for a good 3-man midfield.
What's the best form of defence?
Well, yeah, attack. But yeah, I mean, I'd be inclined to go with that midfield 3 of Neil, Vila, and Charters. Give that a go. And yeah, a front 3 of Diamond, Armstrong, Gibson. But Diamond isn't going to play a full 90, is he?
No.
So you'd maybe bring a Blade on off the bench, yeah. But I just think if that's your starting 11, I don't know what your plan B could be.
That is the question, I suppose, isn't it? So I guess McCallum will be on the bench if Charters is starting. Maguire's going to be on there as your striker because that's all we've got there at the moment. Blade's got to come onto the bench, you'd think, in terms of giving us an option there. And then I don't know, what do you go with McGee? I guess at the moment be the other midfielder. Does anyone else have missed out there? Probably forgot some. Although Jane Harris, of course, as Dan mentioned.
Goal scored in midfield at present.
No, yeah. And then obviously you could have two defenders in there. I mean, you've got options there, Green and Barkley, and defenders sort itself out on the bench, doesn't it? At the end of the day, that's fine. It's what do you do with midfields and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see what team starts at the weekend. Like you said, I'm not convinced Diamond's going to be fit enough to play the full 90, so you definitely need an option on there to change things on the wing, possibly. You'd imagine another striker's probably coming in today, so they'll probably be on the bench as well, maybe.
I bloody hope it is.
Yeah, me too, to be fair. We do definitely need one, but there you go. Right, let's do match predictions. Did anyone gain any points last week, Mike? I haven't. You're the one who's the scorekeeper, and I have a chance to keep. So,
no one predicted Gibson to score, and obviously no one predicted us to lose 4-1. So
yes, okay. So right, let's get started then. Mike, you can go first with your prediction.
I'll go for a 2-1 win, and I'll go for a goal from Armstrong and a goal from Mellish.
Okay, Dan, what are you going for?
A shithousery 1-0 smash and grab. Luke Armstrong.
Luke Armstrong to get the goal. Okay, fair enough. Well, I might as well completely set Luke Armstrong as a goal scorer in mine, but there was a part of me tempted to go through defeat here as like a reverse psychology thing and hope that if they win, I'll be quite happy to not get any points. But I'm not. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win as well as Mike, and I'm going to go Armstrong and Jordan Gibson to get the other goal. Armstrong and Gibson to get the goals. There you go. Right, X-Blues time. Dan, there's a few bits to catch up on here for this last week.
Yeah, the weekend. Brad Potts got his 50th league goal of his career as Preston drew 1-1 at Millwall. Some bloke called Carl Dempsey scored. Toby Shaw-Silver scored for Maidenhead United, another goal. Sonny Hilton scored for Bootle in the 3-1 win over Chasetown. There wasn't that many actually at the weekend, was there?
No, it was quite because the FA Cup a few games were off and stuff like that. But there you go.
Midweek, not weekend as you put on the notes.
Sorry, I need to change.
Naki Wells scored first one for a while. Bristol City in the 2-2 draw at Coventry. Mike Obiero scored for Wealdstone in a 3-3 draw with Aldershot.
I looked up that to check the stat that who they'd been playing for that. That was a mad game. That I think. Wealdstone had 2 players sent off as well in that game. So crazy.
Yeah. Mark Ellis scored. Unfortunately, it was in his own goal. Charlie in a 3-2 home win over Alfreton Town. And Tristan Abrahams saw red, sent off for Welling in a 2-1 home win over Hampton and Richmond. A little bit of other news. Gethin Jones started for Australia in a 4-0 win over Indonesia. As I say, they play South Korea tomorrow. Pascal Chimbonda made a playing comeback at the age of 44 for Skelmersdale United in a 2-2 draw with Chadwick Richard. Brilliant, that.
I mean,
got a lot of interest on their socials, this.
I know. I always have to remind myself that Chadwick Richard is not just a service station, it's also a place. So whenever I see them mentioned, it confuses me. There you go.
And Simon Grant is signed for Bamber Bridge after leaving Lancaster City.
That guy's going to keep playing till he's 50. It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It'd be like that Japanese 54-year-old striker, won't
it? King Kazoo. Yeah, he's playing. Is he playing the Portuguese second division now, I think? I think the club he plays for in Japan.
Somewhere bizarre, wasn't it?
Are owned by they own a Portuguese club and they've loaned him out there, I think. So I think he plays in cup games and things like that. So fair play to the fella. But there you go. Well, that's it then. That's all wrapped up, which means they should be announcing a signing any second now, as we always say. But no. Dan and Mike, thanks for both. It's the first time we've had both you on for a while, isn't it? Actually, I was thinking about that.
It's been a long time, yeah.
It's been a long time because you're all settled after your house move, Dan. So all good in that sense.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. I'm sure you've still got a million jobs to do.
I'm best mates with the lads at the tip. Shout out to the boys at the tip because I've been about 48 times.
To the tip.
There's no greater joy in life than a trip to the tip.
The decorating's underway and whatnot. So yeah.
Any kids listen to this pod, when you grow up, you think, going to the tip, that's such a terrible job. It's not. It's one of the great joys.
It's great fun.
One of the great joys of life.
Especially when you pull up and there's no queue and you're like, yes.
Brilliant. And you can just take your time. You go to one, skip by one, just drive yourself along. Wonderful stuff. Right, that's enough tip talk for today. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks once again to our sponsors, the London Bunch, for their support this season. We will be back next week with a review of the Orient game and a look ahead to the return of Owen Moxon. It probably will be if he's not picked up an injury or anything by then. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Dan and Mike for joining me. Most importantly of all, though, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.